In the
on,
bed.
Angela.
In the bed by the time Wheel of Fortune is on.
Listen, it's because the bed is my safe place. Do not do me like this.
It's 7 o'clock. Are you in the bed?
Don't do me like this in front of the public. Babe. Listen.
In the bed at 7? Look, so the sun is still out. I don't understand.
Don't do that.
And then hold on, we'll wake up when Jesus wake up. Like, whoa, where
so
are we
that
doing?
is the flip side. It's because that's the.
Hi, everybody. Lee Scott here. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee, where we talk about life, leadership, and legacy, and we help you discover the leader within. I'm so happy that you're here today because I have some very, very, very special guests. But before I introduce them, if you do me a favor, go and subscribe on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. Please share this with people because I really hope that you're inspired by this great couple. So today I would like to introduce to some people and they'll get an opportunity to share more about themselves. But I want to introduce some friends of mine, people that I admire and see as an incredible couple. Please welcome to Leading with Lee, Nick and Angela Ruffin. Hey, how are y'all doing?
Hey, doing good, brother. How are you?
I am fantastic. I just got super hyped just then. Before I started I told you that I was like super excited to talk to you all because I really, really feel like people are going to be like truly encouraged by your story and who you are. So with that being said, I just want to give you all the floor. If you would be willing to just share a little bit about who you are and what you do and just kind of like give people a little bit of a taste of the Ruffins.
Yeah, let you go first.
Well, yes. Okay. I'm Angela of the Nick and Angela Ruffin group duo here. Yes, we've been married for 12 years now. I literally just had to pause and count the numbers. But yes, 12 years. Together we have 6 grown babies. Yes. And we are in the last stage of our empty nesters stage. So this is exciting. Exciting. We're just enjoying this new stage of our lives. We are pastors now, associate pastors at a local church, a dynamic, dope ministry. Look, so yeah, we're just like excited for this new stage and what God's doing for us.
Yep. And I'm Nick, the other half of the Nick and Angela Ruffin duo. As my wife said, married 12 years, blended family with 6 children, and just excited for this season that we're in. And so awesome to be with Lee today on Leading with Lee. And so we're just excited for the conversation. Let's go.
Yeah, and you failed to mention this, Nick, but he is the host of the Vantage Point podcast.
I forgot.
See, I'm looking out for my plan.
Yeah, you got your notes. You got your notes.
Yeah. I need you to subscribe to Vantage Point.
Yes.
Really, really incredible.
They might have an episode or 2 to go listen to you on there. I think.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That might be helpful for people. So kind of staying in that vein and talking about you all, like, I want you to share, if you would, I don't know, there are 2 different versions of every beginning or origin story. So I would love to hear your origin story. Could you just share with everybody about like, how did you meet? Like, and how is that translated to where you all are now? And Nick, I'm gonna let you go last because I know your answer is gonna be completely different from Angela's. So Angela,
you'll get the right answer last, man. You'll get the most accurate depiction of this story. But if we want to wait till the end to get it, that's fine.
You know it's bad.
Totally fine.
It's bad when you have to. It's bad when you have to preface it with the untruth. Let me tell you. Oh
Lord, here we go.
Disclaimer.
Right.
Truth. We'll see.
See, we not even about to have one of those conversations
today
because that's a whole other tangent. We're not about to get in. Angela, would you share your version of your origin story?
Keyword, your version.
Exactly. The true version. Hallelujah. So We used to work together. We met. What's funny is we actually went to high school together, and I did not.
Wow.
We didn't know each other. He's 3 years younger than I am,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was too busy being an upperclassman to really pay attention. So we met at work. We used to work at Comcast together. He was a technician, and I was a dispatcher. And he would call in. And so we got to talking one day. And I think was I talking about Micah's birthday party?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mentioned a birthday party, and he had made, this little comment about having some birthday cake or something. Mm-hmm. And I said, watch what I do. And so I brought this big old corner piece of the cake. And I think he was really surprised. He didn't, you feed a man.
She made a move.
She did. I didn't think it was going to happen, but
Doubted me. So yes, I totally pulled him. And I totally moved hardcore on that. And we went on our first date eventually, which was a nightmare. Our first date was a nightmare. He was late to picking me up.
Nick.
I had my best friend over. Like we said, we're blended family. So we already had children from different relationships. And so my kids were home and my best friend was there babysitting, and I was fussing about him being late, and I shouldn't even open the door, but opened the door, got to the movie theater, and I was already frustrated. And so I just off charts was like annoyed through our entire date. From where we were sitting at the show, it wasn't one of those like reserved seats like that we have now. So I was frustrated about where we were sitting, and just a whole attitude throughout the entire thing. I'm very surprised that we had a second date, but we did, and here we are. Yeah. Here we are. Yeah. It was worth it. It was worth it.
12 years later, Nick.
12 years.
So that's about 80% accurate. Because, with the whole cake thing, you had to have some inclination to bring me the cake first. So who pulled who? I'm just saying. But, I'm just, because there's a 20% window there that it might have been me that initiated, and then you brought the cake, and then I don't know. That's just me. What's your question?
Here's my. I know you got to share your origin story version, but my question is: were you calling into dispatch just to get Angela? That's what I want to know.
So usually when you called in the dispatch, it was random who you got, but I was in a certain department, and I think it was only a handful of dispatchers that handled what I did, and she just happened to be the one that always answered the phone and was giving me work to do. So she was giving me honey-do lists before she was honey,
Let's go, Nick.
I'm just saying.
Because I was always sweet. Come on.
As I said, who pulled who. But either way. See? So there you go. Y'all can decide who pulled who. But there's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So there you go.
He's been sticking to the story for 12 years.
It's 12 years, and I'm not letting it go.
That's fantastic. That is the best origin story I have heard on this conversation. Like, that is the best. Like, she was giving you alleys, bro. She was just Jason Kidd.
She did. Just throwing them up.
Which is great. But let's move on a little bit. You all obviously been married for 12 years. You have a blended family. And so there are things you have to navigate, right? And you all have been pastors for like about a year now, hasn't it?
Exactly.
Exactly a year.
On Sunday was our 1 year mark there. Yeah.
Wow. Yep. So kind of talk to me a little bit about how are you all navigating being parents and being married, like balancing being parents, being married, and then you all are starting in you have work lives, and then you have ministry lives. But how are you all navigating the uniqueness of all those things that's going on in your lives?
I think the first thing that we constantly talk about, because it's not a one-time conversation, I think that's a myth that married people have, like when it comes to priorities, like it's a one-time conversation.
Wow.
Like, no, because priorities change. When you enter into marriage and then you have children and then you have ministry, things are shift. Like we're coming into the empty nest season where there are no children in the house per se, but still a parent, right? And so now you have to navigate, how do you move that? How do you shift around? Not allowing certain things like ministry to overtake. And I think that's always kind of a checks and balance between us, to where, okay, we need to make sure we're intentional about things like date night, shutting off the phone after a certain amount of time, because, ministry doesn't stop, unfortunately. You might take a pause, but things don't pause, right? And things happen unexpectedly and last minute. And so, we really just focus on priorities, constant communication about those priorities, and then understanding that, there's also this, moment of a self. We actually just had this conversation not too long ago about, sometimes I just want some time for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to nobody. Yeah. Even you. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think sometimes people are like, well, you don't talk to me? Why you don't? Like, no, because we still need that self time, right? To just reflect, do nothing, go for a drive, read a book, sit on the back porch and do nothing. Like, and not my wife says, not be anything to anybody in a moment. Just give me the moment to be me for me. And, so I think those things are where you have to have the conversation of priority. And that's what truly has helped us in this season, past seasons, and the seasons we're going into. Yeah.
Angela?
I completely agree. Really having those checks and balances. Like you said, this is our first year in this, so we've got a ton on our plate, and having to balance that. And while it all is a priority, needing to know what takes the top priority for a moment. Yep. Because we can't set certain things aside. You don't set church and people aside. We can't obviously set each other or our children aside, and work life and, everything else, ministry and all of outside of our church ministry, having to make sure that we set aside those priorities and not being afraid to talk about that. Like, hey, okay, so this is time for us. While we're on date night, let's not bring up, now it's not just the kids or work, but let's not talk about the church too. Let's not talk about this and talk about that. Those are off limits, because what we both have talked about is not losing ourselves. Not losing ourselves for the sake of ministry, or not losing ourselves for the sake of parenthood. Like, we're empty nesters now. Practically, we have one full-time kid in the house, and she'll be graduating high school next year. So once the kids leave, we need to be able to still talk about things. We need to still be able to have something, a commonality. We need to still be able to have interest in each other, because, certain responsibilities are moving and shifting. We need to be able to make sure that we're not having lost ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many great things that you said. You spoke to a key thing that I think that happens a lot is, and we've seen it before, where folks lose each other because they're so busy doing things together that they forget that the most important thing is them, right? And the connection that they have. And I mean, it really, really helps me to go to the next question, because you all are trying to maintain this relationship for you all and balance being parents of a soon to be graduate next year and the last person out of your house. And I know y'all are super happy about that. Every time you say it, I can see that. I see the joy just rising up in your soul as you're saying. I'm like, they are so ready to give rid of their babies.
Listen,
no, I mean, they could still come by. They just got to make an appointment.
They just got to knock now.
I mean, we might not. Real talk, we might not be here. We may not be here. I mean, you can come by, but where y'all at? We not there. We not here. I mean, you can come in, but we not gonna be there.
You know, and we joke. Our kids,
yeah,
we love our kids around. They're great, but then there are moments. You see, when we came together, we didn't have it's just us two, and then years later we have children. Whenever we had decided,
Right.
we came together. He had already had 3 children. I already had 3 children, and we became the Brady Bunch real hot, real fast. And so, and that was I was 30, you were 27, but at a very young age. So we had a full family. Yeah. And so now we're ready to live our best lives. Do you hear me? Without the children always in our pockets or always right there. And so we're not one of those, we don't sit and cry when our kids leave. We're just like, okay, well, we'll see you this weekend. I mean, we've got a 21-year-old who comes home every weekend. So those moments, but it's good to be able to experience each other in a way that we didn't have, like some other marriages had.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And this is an aside, but I'm so excited for y'all. I'm excited for you all to rediscover what actually brought you together and what made you both choose each other, because that is something that I think people undervalue. You know, I'm in an interesting place in my life. Obviously, you all know this. I'm 28. I'll be 29 this year. But my parents, they just celebrated 34 years a few months ago. And the unique thing specifically about my parents, they've been through so much and I've seen them go through so much. But for them, the first 5 years of their marriage, they got mind you, they got married mad young. My parents was 19 going on 20. So they were extremely young.
Very young.
Yeah, but they were married for 5 years before they had kids. Like my dad, you know, and we were literally having a conversation just recently, and he told me, you know, he was telling me about some things that he experienced or that happened during that time. And it was difficult. It was hard trying to formulate, you know, your identity as a man, trying to formulate your identity from a mom as a woman, their identities separately, their identities together. All those things are happening at that time. And it's such a critical time. And there was a lot of moments of disappointment and different things like that. But they got that time, because now it always trips me out. And I've seen this happen in recent years, especially for me, is I'll be out with them and they hadn't done it since I've been home, but thank God. But your kids will always, and I don't know if this is one of my prayers and hope for you all, and I think this is going to be true, but my parents trip me out, because even I feel uncomfortable now about the fact that when I'm out with them, sometimes they holding hands. I'm like, I mean, like, you would think that's it seems trivial, but the fact for me is it's exciting to know that you all are excited about rediscovering each other, right?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
And so that's something that's going to encourage people, that like they can meet somebody and find somebody that actually wants to rediscover who they are. And there may be people that listen to this or watch this that may say to themselves, well, I don't, you know, I've been married for 10, 5, 20, 30 years, and I've been so focused on this other stuff, but I have not taken the time and said, you know what? It's about us. It's about team whomever, right? And I think that that's so beautiful and super encouraging. I think that people will be inspired by that part of your story. So I'm shifting a little bit, but I wanted to specifically ask you all about this, because you all have teenagers and young adults. Most of the couples that I've talked to so far have had either small children or no children, right? What have you learned as parents that has, and obviously it plays in other parts of your life, but what is something that you all have, and either one of you can answer this or both of you can answer it, it doesn't really matter, but you all have young adult and teenage kids, and the first place of leadership development happened there, right? What are some of the things that you have learned from being parents of now as they say, up and coming senior and young adult children, that you have applied to your leading in ministry and your leading in other areas of your lives? Like, what are some things that you kind of learned in the process of raising your kids that you've like, okay, this is something that's applicable to other areas?
Yeah. I know for me, one thing that I've learned, or that we've, that I'm sure you'll agree that we've learned, is that no kid is like the other, even though they're all yours.
Yep.
They pick up, they have their own personalities. They're all very different. They receive things differently. They receive correction differently. They receive love differently. They have different understanding. You can relate to them all in a different way. What may work for one person doesn't work for the other. Or, you know, as that works with our children, or as that is with our children, it's the same with, you know, leading in a church, or leading even in the secular. I mean, you can relate to one person and speak to them on a different kind of level. And then for another, it takes a different kind of breakdown, because they have a different level of understanding, or, you know, grasp things differently, receive things differently. We have one kid, super tough, nothing breaks her. She's great. We have another kid, you just say one word and tears flow. So, you know, and then we all the in between. So it's the same with people too. Leading people, having to find out just that perfect balance, and relating to someone and what it is that they need as a leader. And just the same with your children, knowing what it is that they need in a mom or a dad looks different for the next.
I would say really, as watching, I've had a little bit of grief because they're adults now, and so my role shifts. So while it's a gain in some areas, you know, it's a loss where not that they don't need you anymore. Kids will always need parents. That's just rule number one in life. You will always, no matter how old you get, you'll need your mom or dad for something. But accepting the needs that they have now are different. I think our oldest calls me the on-call dad. That is what I am. I'm on call. So she's running her life. She's doing her thing. If she needs something, question, advice, whatever, she'll call. Right. So I'm like, man, I should probably get a pager like back in the 90s, so she could just page me or something like that. You know, she didn't know what that was, but that was all right.
Right.
She had no idea what that was. Like, what's a pager? It's like, oh gosh, okay. I may have failed you a little bit. I may have failed you a bit because you don't know what that is. But I think, like I said, just accepting the different, you know, it's almost you go into kind of this authoritative role to more of a consulting role. That is essentially, and then there's even, you have to live with the acceptance of their decision. That's the tough one. Because, you know, what can I tell you at 21 and make you do it when you don't live in my house? Not much. You're gonna make your decision.
Let me tell you something. I got a story to tell you about that one, bro. I got a story to. I'm experiencing that now with having to move back home, and I'm like, the first conversation I had with my mom, and it wasn't like, oh, I just wanted to move back home. It just was kind of the circumstance, right? And my mom tried to have a sit down with me about. She tried to hit me with a curfew. I said, Mom, I am 28. I was like, ma'am, listen.
He said, ma'am.
18-year-old me, you could do that. 28-year-old me, you can't do that at all. Now, I do understand that there's a level of respect, right?
And I'm not
about to do anything crazy. Like, I'm about to come in the house at 4 a.m. That's just not. If I'm out at 4 a.m., I ain't coming home.
There you go.
Right? You just get the text from me. But you know, I'm kind of at a point in my life where I value sleep. I mean, you know, I be listen. It's
a thing. It's
a whole thing. It's a thing. It's first of all, it's an anointing.
Yes,
you let it work.
It is.
You said Jesus is in the sleep.
Right.
That's what I heard.
You gotta let it work for you. So you know, I don't sleep as much as I probably should, but I promise you, I'm in the bed at a reasonable amount of time to where if I was out late, I probably ain't gonna be out too late because I'm already yawning at the place that I am. about
Mhm.
9:30. So, it kind of is what it is. I'm exposing myself, and whoever
That's
wants,
all right.
That's all right.
That's all
That's
right.
all right.
whoever wants to take me, just know by 9:30, your boy's like,
Like I'm feeling a little, yeah.
Yeah.
it's hitting me a little, just a little bit. I can push
I
through.
know. I do know how that works. Yes.
That's
That's
me.
I- in
Come
the
on,
bed.
Angela.
In the bed by the time Wheel of Fortune is
So,
on.
listen, it's because the bed
It's
is my
7
safe
o'clock.
place. Do not do me like this.
It's 7 o'clock.
Don't
Are you in the bed?
don't do me like this in front of the public, babe. Listen,
You're in the bed at 7?
it's
Look,
so
the
first
sun
of
is
all,
still out. I don't
first of
understand.
all, don't do that.
And then hold on, we'll wake up when Jesus wake up. Like,
Okay.
whoa, what
So
are we
that is
doing?
the flip side. It's
Right.
because that's the flip side. I
Right.
get up very early,
Right.
to commune with my savior. And
I understand.
so I lay in I don't go to sleep that early. I just like to be comfortable under the covers,
Same.
chilling. I'll be up. I
Same.
probably will fall asleep around
10:30.
10:30, 11, but
10
I'm
o'clock.
I'm just comfortable. The bed is the happy place, okay?
And see,
It's
I'm
safe
the
place.
opposite.
It's a safe
I'm more of a
place.
night owl. And so I do my devotions all at like at night. Everybody else is asleep. Nobody needs anything at that moment for me. So I'm the opposite. So,
And that's why
but it works. It
Right,
works.
it's exactly why it works, and that balance of your unique personalities and how you operate helps with everything that you all are creating and building and doing together. But in Angela's defense, I'm a lot like Angela. My mom's the same way too. My mom is probably in bed right now. She's
And that's
probably-
okay.
and that's okay. But she's probably watching something. She's probably
Yeah.
doing something.
Mhm.
But
She's comfortable.
Yeah, she's comfortable, and I very much so understand that and get that. So whom I hope I don't drive my future wife crazy because I'm in bed all the time. Anyways, I
Hopefully
will
she-
always be.
Hopefully she likes you there.
Thank you. Amen. And amen again. Let me move on because we can stay there all day. All day. We got so many other questions to be asking.
Go ahead.
So moving the conversation a little bit further, I think you all kind of touched on this. Nick, you had kind of already touched on it. Were about some of the lessons. What were some of the lessons? You kind of touched on some of the lessons you're learning to navigate into their adulthood. But like, what are some other things that you see with parents that might be a challenge, right? Like, there are a lot of parents that are, especially in this environment. I can only imagine what it's like to raise kids now. I don't have any, but not yet. Well, I almost went on a whole nother thing about that one statement, Lord Jesus.
Okay.
That's staying over there. My God.
Keep that for the next episode.
Right.
Keep it in your back pocket.
Let me tell you something. This is staying in the episode, so I ain't cutting this out.
Okay.
Okay.
just know that whole moment is going to stay right in there.
Right there.
Right there. Okay.
Just right there somewhere. What are some of the challenges or some of the things that you all have seen happen with parents that you might know, or what you've experienced as parents and some of the things that you had to overcome to try to build out? And even preemptively, what does that look like with blended families? Because you all have said several times that you are a blended family. Like, what does that look like in that context, or just for parenting in general?
I think one challenge that I've seen from other parents, and maybe to some degree, I would say I've had it a little bit, but sometimes parents, I feel like, fall in love with a season of parenting. Like they fall in love with the baby season, or the little kid season, because if you really think about it, that's where they need you the most.
Wow. Oh my God.
That is their most not desperate season for you, but they need you. They literally can do nothing on their own. Right. And so sometimes parents can't get out of that season. So now you have a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old that the parent is so, and I'll just use the word smothering, to where the kid doesn't get to grow into who they are. They grow into who you want them to be. And, even, there's always when you get a young kid, do you let your kid dress themselves, or you dress them and lay out their clothes every day? Well, what's wrong with letting them experiment a little bit? As long as they ain't going out, trying to go to daycare naked, they be all right, But if they want to wear the cowboy boots with the khaki pants and the jersey and a baseball hat that don't match, those don't match. And it's like, he's 5. He doesn't know the concept of matching yet, but I think it's one of those things where you have to accept who they're becoming.
Yeah.
And I think for us, especially in a Christian home, like that's probably one of the, especially like you mentioned, like the day we're in, right? The season of the culture that we live in, the wars that's going on with with kids and exposing them to things. I'm gonna believe, like, as children under 18, like, we are the ones responsible for their exposure, right? Yeah. Now, once you hit the middle school, high school age, that influence starts to expand. Right. And so it's what you're putting into them, what you're teaching them, what you're showing them. Right. So when they do turn 18, 19, 20, now they're in a position where they ultimately have to make the decision for themselves. Yeah. And us, being pastors, we had the conversation with the kids, at teenagers, like they were, so what does this mean for us? Well, you're 16, so you're still here. Yeah. So we'll see you at church. 19-year-old, you still live in our house. So yes, we will see you at church as well. 21-year-old, you don't live with us. So it's up to you what you want to do. Yeah. We're not going, and I think that's almost how the conversation went. Like, so do I have to go to church now? Yeah. You can. What do you want to do? Wow. What do you want me to do? No. What do you want to do? And, we had a moment where she wasn't, but that wasn't a conversation we had with her. That was a conversation we had with the Holy Spirit. Right. Right. And you start to see, and that's where you take your parenting shift into a different way. Because you have to accept that they are an adult. They are their own person. They have their own mind, their own thoughts. Maybe to some degree you influence that thought, but you also have to, intercede on their behalf and allow them to be led to make that decision, not by your influence, but by the influence of the Holy Spirit. And so you can't fall so in love with seasons of parenting that you forget to accept who your child is becoming. Yeah. And obviously, that's our perspective because we are people of faith. We are Christians. So that is one thing that vantage point in which we listen or operate in. Now, I know that there may be people that watch this or listen to this that may not come from the same values or the same systems that we have. But I do think there's something that you said that was very critical in that it is a parent's job to guide. And even now at 28, almost 29, I sometimes still seek out the guidance of my parents, not because I have to ask them, but because I just want to get a different vantage point because they've lived more life than me. My parents are in their 50s. Right. So there's a level of access to information by virtue of life that they have because they have walked this journey much further than me. I'm going to ask my parents about marriage every now and then. I may not do certain things that they do, but I'm going to ask because obviously to some degree, my parents have been successful at it. I'll share this quick story with you all. And this is a real thing. My mom and dad, like I said, have been married for 34 years. No lie, my mother and if we had this conversation, I promise you, it will blow your mind. My mother is the only person in her side of the family that's been married to the same person. Oh, wow. She never, no one in her family has been married to the same person the whole time. Either they have previous relationships or they've been divorced. She is one of the only people.
which indicates to me that there was a decision that she made.
Yeah.
That I'm going to do everything in my power to sustain a healthy and productive marriage. And it didn't matter what everybody else was doing. So her decision is impacting me. So that means I have the ability to get access to information and questions to get answered because I'm the child of somebody who didn't come from a place where they were successful in something. She made a decision to be successful. So that because of that decision, I now have information that can make me a better person. Right.
Exactly.
So those things are super important. And I think no matter what people believe, whatever their value system is, the reality is to your point, Nick, is that it is our job as children to look at our parents and say, okay, what is something that they're making apparent to us, and what are the options that they're giving us? Because sometimes parents don't give their kids options. Listen,
right.
Let's talk about it real quick. Us Black folks, I love us. I love us, but we have a notorious habit. At least in the past. Now, some parents are getting more healthy. A lot of more parents in our generation going to therapy. Y'all having conversations. We're willing to be more flexible. But my parents and my grandparents' generation, they had no time for talking. Do what I say. That's it.
Period.
This is not a conversation. Do what I told you to do. Because of the nature of the time. But now we made some progress in some ways. So now we have the ability to really be like, okay, why are we doing this?
Right.
Excuse me.
Let's have some better understanding. Were you about to say something, Angela?
Yeah, I'll tell you just on that point, exactly. That's something that we had to deal with also when we brought our family together, is that I was the one, surprisingly too, because my background, I grew up in a military household. There was no asking. There was no asking why.
Wow.
There was no giving explanations. That is, do this because I said so, and you better not question. And it was, sir, yes, sir, end of story. When our kids were growing up, I would give them, they didn't even have to ask why, because I would give them the reason. And do this because yada, yada, woo, right? And I know that when we got together, that was a challenge at first because, Nick's like, no, I don't owe you an explanation. This is how you do this. You're going to do this because I said so.
Yeah.
And how I rationalized giving the reason why, explaining that to the children, was that I can tell you to look both ways before you cross the street because I said, do this. But if you don't understand the reason why, then when you get older, everything that you do is just going to be because I was told to, not because I can make this decision based on a safety factor or based on an educated something foundation that's telling me go ahead and go this way, or don't do this, or don't do that. And so I would always tell the kids, like, do this way because blah, 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 blah. Or, at this time, do this because da, 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 da. And explain whatever it is, because I really wanted my kids to have the understanding that when they get older and start making a decision, either to continue what I've been teaching you or to do something differently, is because you have the knowledge as to why this is the way you should go or why it is not.
Hi, everybody. Lee here, and I want to give some information to you. Do you need someone to host an event or come and speak at your event? You can now book yours truly. Book me for your event by visiting www.leeascott.com. I am so excited to connect with you and do work with you. Much love, and let's get started.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh, that's so good. That it brought up this thought, and I really have to move us on because there's just some other questions that I have for you all. But Angela, that's so great because it literally brought up something in my mind that we don't even realize. A lot of times it shows up in our adulthood. We sometimes, even in our work lives, we tolerate things that we should not tolerate because we weren't taught how to navigate those things. Those feelings of people saying, you just do what I tell you to do. Well, what if what you're telling me to do is unethical?
Right.
I don't have a value system, or I don't have an ability to know how to navigate that thing that's fundamentally could really be very risky for me, right? So it can show up in some ways. I'm not saying that this is always true, right? But in some ways, I know for me as an adult, in some ways, I had to unlearn some stuff because I always say this because I recognize it's true, and I say this to my parents now, and I have more appreciation for them now as an adult because I recognize our parents are only using the tools that they had.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that makes me more gracious. That makes me more gracious to you because I recognize you may have not known something because the simple fact is, before you had me, you had no kids.
Exactly.
There was not a manual on Lee Andrew Scott II before you had Lee Andrew Scott II. When you had me, you were learning as you went. When you had my brother Jordan, you were learning as you go. When we started getting my god sister Christine and brought her into our home, and she's been my adopted sister for a large portion of my life. You did not have a manual for that. You had to learn how that. So I have to be more gracious because I recognize you were learning. Even for you all being parents, and you both had 3 kids when you came into the relationship, you had to learn what it looked like to raise 6 children, to raise 3 like already formed young people. Like, you had to learn what they look like. So my hope and my belief is that your kids, as they get older, they'll appreciate and then they look back and recognize, oh, that's why.
Yes.
That's I was so serious when you threw me off. That's why.
That's it. I'm sorry. I felt it. Because literally, I remember apologizing to our oldest child one day. And explaining to her, you know what, I am going to apologize in advance for everything that we do with you because you are our guinea pig. We literally don't know what to do with you. You're the first to do all the things. You're the first to be all the ages at once, or in your lifetime. Your younger siblings are not going to be 21 first. You're going to be the first one to do this. There's going to be many things that you're the first one to do that. And we have no idea, excuse me, how to parent whatever stage you go through because you're going to be the first. And so I apologize in advance for every failure because I guarantee we will. We have no idea.
Let me move on because
go ahead. We can sit right here for a long time.
No, for real, because that's the real thing. I'm that child. I'm that child. I'm the first child they had to learn to. I'm their first adult child.
You're the first of everything.
Yes.
So I apologize, and we're gonna just kind of retro this apology for you. I apologize on behalf of your parents. They had no idea.
My God.
Literally, had no idea how to parent.
Yeah. Ooh, let me move on.
But thank you for your service because you helped them with the other kids. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. By the way, I'm gonna say this, and I really gotta move on. I said this 3 times, but I almost don't need to ask the other question because this is the whole thing. But real talk, I had a conversation, or I saw this meme where it talked about how the oldest kid is the third parent, and I said we're traumatized with the third parent, and I said on the post, I said, man, I want a refund. Can I choose being number 2 or 3? Like, can I be somewhere in the middle?
Can I do this
over? But not the first. Just and I'm low key in a lot of hilarious ways. I was the oldest great grandchild at one point. I'm the oldest grandchild that's a male, and then I'm the oldest child. So there's a lot of pressure, right? So you're having those things that are going on, but it's a part of the process, and I think we all are learning and growing, right? But enough about kids. This conversation is about you. We kind of spend a bit of time on the kids part, but let's get back to you because you all were talking earlier about just this new phase, right? Like this beautiful moment that you're about to walk into why I already know, Nick, you about to be wearing those Colombian collar shirts all the time, the Hawaiian shirts all the time, wearing shades. It's the middle of winter. He's gonna be like, I'm from Chicago. I don't care.
We don't.
We don't care.
I am wearing this Hawaiian shirt because I feel like wearing it, and no kid is in my house. This will be straight up there. So my next question for you all it is in what ways are you all learning to be engaged in each other's interests? Right, like before you all came into a relationship, y'all obviously you said you both had 3 kids. Like you all had lives. You had things that you were doing and involved and engaged in. Like, what are some of the ways that you're like, hey, I don't know if I like this, but you like this? Like, what are some of the ways are you engaging with each other in that way?
Let her answer first.
Oh no,
Because she's laughing too hard.
Listen,
I know what she's about to say.
I am so bad at that. Listen, I can be transparent. I'm an open book. I suck at being involved in his interests. Okay. Because I'm too involved in mine. No, he's much, I'm gonna give him some kudos. He's much better at being willing to do the things that I enjoy than I am the flip side. We definitely have very different personalities and different likes. I can engage in some things, but others I'm just like, why can't we just keep these things separate? So I will say here that I will work better at doing that.
I have it recorded. If you want me to see
send me that snip so I have that and I can just hit play on the phone.
Oh my!
For
my 5 for his
Thank you. Appreciate you. I think it's interesting because kind of even going back to something you said before, like learning each other. Like there's still some learning of ourselves because
that's good.
Yeah,
I'm not the same person I was 12 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago. And that has nothing to do with the title or anything like that. It's just as a person, you evolve. And I think even the last few years of life on this earth for anybody I would think you should have some different level of thought about something.
Yep.
If you don't, you might be a little too numb to what's going on in the last 48 months or 24 months or something like that. But I think that, as we look at interests and like Angela said, like her ideal vacation is a beach somewhere.
Oh, yes.
I go to Maine.
Oh, no.
I will go to Maine. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now,
I'll go.
Now we've been to the beach. We ain't been to Maine yet. I'll just throw that out there too. That's why I need that recording.
It's on the
so
list.
That clip. It's like number 12. It's like number 12.
Hey, dirty. That's just so dirty. Doing me
it's
wrong.
Like number 18 on the list.
Look, my thing is that I'll go. It's not a top 10 spot for me. However, I really do enjoy being with him.
And I think that's the thing. Like when it comes to interests, like if I could encourage, like look past I don't like that. Like you look at it but I'm with you, so there's some things that even, like I'll put myself out there. Like I don't swim. I can't swim. Sorry. I'm Black. I grew up in the city. I don't swim. Sorry.
I did too.
I don't.
I swim.
That's okay. You went to the pool. I didn't go to the pool. She didn't take us to the pool, but you went to the pool, but there's some things I've overcome with. I even took swimming lessons.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I'm so proud of
that. For me was a whole, I could probably swim 5% better than I could before the class. No, it's probably a little better than that. I could do a little more than that. But even like a recent vacation, I got in the ocean.
Yeah.
And that was a whole situation. Like the water tried to give me a hug. It tried to give me a hug. The wave came up, tried to hug me. I was done. I was like, no, gotta go. It's too much.
Nick was
peace
like,
out.
I'll let you go.
Gotta go.
I was in the ocean.
I'm gonna be on the beach. I'll be on the chair. See you later.
Right.
But I think, in the essence of the question is like, could you look past your dislike to focus on the moment, right? Because you're with your spouse, you're with the person you're with, and you're spending time with them. It may not be enjoyable for you, she loves a lot of reality TV. I'll be in the room, and I'll watch a little bit. I might comment on something I heard.
Yes, you do.
I'll be commenting. I don't be in tune with it like that, but I'll comment like, what's she saying? She's crazy, something like that. And then I go back. But I think it's just making sure that you find those moments to do that. Because the reality is you're going to find things that you're going to have things that your other spouse won't like. That are just for you and you alone, but just making sure you have that intentionality behind, coming together and engaging at that level, because you never know, you might like it. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that your answers have been so great throughout this whole conversation. And it makes it easy for me to ask the next question, because it indicates to me something that I want you to kind of talk about. Like, how has that self-discovery of you knowing yourself better influenced how you all see each other? Like, how is it? Because I feel like you were getting at it a little bit, Nick, in your answer of getting out of yourself. Kind of talk to me a little bit about that, and how has that journey of coming to know yourself better influenced how you all see each other?
I think for me, I think for me, it's been an interesting journey to learn more about me, and kind of watch that evolution happen over time. We weren't always happy, and just call it for what it is. Like, we've been through some hell in our marriage, and
listen,
something for real. And I think a lot of people, when you hear 34 years, 40 years, 50 years married, you've been through some stuff, oh my, like, for real. And so I think even when I hear young couples a year in the game and, oh man, it's been rough, I mean, brother,
but like, you just started.
It's
been rough.
You just got here,
man. All right. And then
I'm praying against that. I'm like, Lord, don't let it be rough the first year, Jesus.
First. It's you're getting to know.
You're still getting to know
each other and yourself in a different capacity. And
I think even when you look at marriage, like, that's a whole shift in and of itself.
Wow.
You're literally going, there's so much preparation in a wedding, but rarely for a marriage. And just like we talked about parenting, you've never been married before.
Right.
So you're about to enter into new territory yourself.
Listen, and if you have been married before, because we're that couple, we were previously married to other people before we got together. The current marriage is still going to be different than the previous marriage. So, and the people are different, and you yourself are going to be different. So it's still a different experience when you're dealing with that. When you're talking about, learning each other. I mean, I just mentioned that you're still learning yourself, you're learning each other, you're learning a new relationship and a different dynamic. For couples who did not live together before they got married, it's a different beast.
Yeah.
Move in with someone, have to share a bathroom with someone, but learn your roles in the house. Who does the cooking? Who does the laundry? Who does this? Who does that? Like, these are real live things.
Oh yeah.
Being for us, one thing that we dealt with when you talk about having to learn yourself and then learn each other, we dealt with. For me, I was a single mom for 7 years before we got together.
Wow.
And so being a single mom for so long, it's like, well, and I won't say 7 years, but in between there, but being a single mom, I was the head of the household.
Yeah.
And so getting together where I was used to, okay, I'm going to make this quick decision. Okay, I know what to do with the kids already. I know how to do this. I'm going to shift. I know how to handle my own business. I know how to do all the things.
Wow.
Okay, but boo, you got a whole head of the household now. You are no longer it.
Wow.
So having to shift my decision making, having to shift how I approach things, how I handle business, how I handle kids, how I handle myself. I can no longer just make decisions and it just be on my own and I'm good. I can't just keep on going or whatever. If I'm used to a single person with no kids, being a single person, you're used to just governing yourself. But now you're in a relationship, in a marriage where, oh, okay, I can't just do that without a thought. I have to consult my boo. I have to consult my husband or I have to consult my wife, you know, that type of thing. That's something that I had to learn majorly. Like, okay. And I'm a strong woman. I'm a tough lady. I'm so grateful that he hung in there because this one was real rough. Okay. But you know, having to learn, okay, I need to turn to him and say, hey, babe, what do you think about this? I can't just go out and spend money.
Yeah.
Even if I made it, I got to turn and still be like, this is ours now.
Yeah.
How do we do this? You know, it's a whole different dynamic.
Wow.
Not even translated into like our ministry roles now, because we've been in ministry before pastors, right? We kind of each had our own space of volunteering where we did things with other ministries, and they never really crossed paths, you know, until I think the last volunteer space we were in together, where we both did the same thing. But now as pastors, you know, we still each have our areas, but we also, I'll speak, you know, for me specifically, learning, because leadership for me was a familiar place. I've been in leadership before in, you know, business and my career, still am. And now in, you know, in ministry as a pastor, but now watching my wife go into it and watching her experience all the things in leadership, where I want to just jump in and be like, wow, no, this ain't happening. Let me help her figure this out. And then it was like, no, I don't need you to come to my rescue. And I'd be like, wow. Okay. And really had to go in prayer and really just engage the Holy Spirit. It's like, this is her becoming something different in herself. She's still who she is, but now she's in a different capacity that I'm not used to seeing her in, but it's what she's called to do. And so it's, you know, watching her grow into, you know, the leader who she is has been amazing. But again, it's that kind of going back to, you know, I'm one who's led leaders. And so I want to step in and assist, and you know, you just have to step back and watch and encourage. And, you know, there's been moments where there's a reach out, you know, and, you know, she'll engage me and and I think she said it a few times, like, this has been, I think she's seen me different in these roles as pastors because I've been that kind of safe space for her. Not that I wasn't before, but I think in this to where, you know, like you said, we're two different people. Like, I'm more of the calm and laid back, kind of even keel, like nothing really gets me up or down. And so her being able to lean on that strength of me in the season where she's growing into, you know, this new space, and then vice versa for me. And so that's been a dynamic of learning each other in the pastoral, you know, kind of role in ministry. It's like, okay, we're leaning on each other differently in ministry.
Wow.
That is different than we leaned on each other in marriage in some ways. But they are so intertwined with each other, but you still are evolving, you still are growing. And even after a year of, you know, ministry and the things that we've endured, you know, in that time, now we're in a different season of church and ministry and where the ministry is going. And so it's been, you know, just amazing to see that, but also learning each other in the process as well.
You know, I think we underestimate this, but I think we underestimate our own personal evolutions, right? I mean, it's very apparent that you're saying that like you all are, we as people are always evolving. We're getting new shades of of or that's not the phrase I want to use. We're getting new layers to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It's just like peeling an onion where there's just so many layers that are there. You know, if you asked 18-year-old me what I thought my life would have looked like this now at 28, about to be 29, he might have said, no, I don't think that's it. Like, you know, and you all know this for me. I just moved back home, obviously, within the last year. And this is a completely new chapter. I had a conversation with my boss recently, and he said it's all he explained it to me this way, and I thought it was just so hilarious, but it's so true. He said it's almost like once again, you are a freshman in college and you move to a new town and you're trying to find your space. And it's weird for me because I grew up here. This is home, right?
Okay.
And so there's a level of oddity to that, but that discovery is informing who the person I can possibly be and the person I'm becoming. And I think what I've heard both from you is that evolution and that growth and that next thing that you're trying to move towards, you are both willing to allow each other to become who you need to become next.
Yeah.
And actually have the courage and the grace to be like, you know what? I'm gonna get to know this new version of Nick. I'm gonna get to know this new version of Angela. Like, I can't expect you to be that same person, right? Like I'm realizing, like you said, Nick, which I think is such a beautiful thing. You realize, oh, actually, I don't need to get involved because she actually needs to become that person. It's ultimately for us to become who we need to become, and until we it's time for us to peace out. Like, we're gonna always be growing and going to the next thing. So as we get towards the end, people are going to be so encouraged and so challenged, I think, in a lot of ways by hearing you all's story, because there's so many levels of wisdom to what you all have said today. And if they're listening at the gym, or if they watch this at some point, if they're, you know, in their car, wherever they are, when they hear this, I hope, and my desire is for people to hear that, like, it is possible for them to come into something and grow and learn with somebody. Like, it is possible for you to grow old with somebody. It just is.
Absolutely.
But you got to be willing to do the work. And I think every conversation I've had with couples is that has been the big thread. You got to be willing to do the work on yourself personally, but the work for that relationship work, because that's a whole separate thing. And there's three things that's going on at the same time. But I'm going to move on, and as it relates to that, what is like one piece of advice you all would give to people that are dating, that like they want to be married, like they're moving towards marriage? Like, what is something that you would just put in people's minds to think about? And Angela,
yeah, I can, because it really, it's what you just said. My advice would be like, not being afraid to grow and learn yourself, and then grow and learn in each other.
Yeah.
In that order. You have to do it in that order. It's not, let me tell you how you should grow, or let us work on us. Because if you don't work on you, there's no us. And I think that's where a lot of relationships, because not just marriages, but even dating, like, they get into this funk, and they don't know what's wrong. But if you ask them what's going on, well, she and she and she and him and him and him. Well, what about you? What are you doing? Well, no. What about you? What have you looked in yourself? And I love the analogy of like laundry. When you come in a relationship, everybody has laundry. Everybody has a basket of laundry. And most of the time you only show so much of that laundry, right? But if you're not willing to go clean that laundry, then there's no point. And just like with real laundry, we don't wash it once. You go back and wash over and over again. And so that would be my advice, is you have to be willing to get under that and do what you need to do in terms of that, because that's what's going to ultimately create the growth and create the things in the relationship to be able to solidify everything else around it, the us, right? You have to work on you to work on us. Mm-hmm. And then potentially working on you might prompt the other person to work on themselves. And those are the things that I would say, working on yourself and then us would be the biggest advice I would give.
Excuse me. I think there's so much. I'm in my head, like, what one thing should I say? I'm trying to figure out how to put it all together. I think one thing that I would advise is to change your lens, your filter, so that you see each other through the good lens. Don't always look for the fault. Don't always look for the deficit or something that is failing or not right or not perfect. For me, I really and I'm learning this. So being transparent over the years, have had to learn that to look at my husband, look for what I want to see. Because it's there if we want to pay attention to it. It's always easy to look at somebody and say, oh, they don't do this right, or they can't say this right, or they don't blah, blah, blah right. Or like me, they don't do it like I do, or I could do it better. But instead choosing to see the good in your spouse or in the person you're dating, what you are looking for is pretty much what you're going to find. And so like with anybody, and we've, I think it's across the board, women are great at being private investigators. Women are great at snooping and finding things. And so in the same way that we can take our time to try to find something that's so wrong, what can we find that's right? And that's something that I had to learn over the years, to change that lens, that filter, to really seek out and search for what it is that I wanted to see, what was good, what was pleasing, what was right. And that way you're always constantly looking at your spouse through like a loving lens instead of always being critical.
Y'all, oh my gosh. Like there's so many ways I can go right now based on what you both said. That's like, so weighty. Let me move on, because we have been on here for over an hour. And if you are still listening or watching this, it has been so worth it, because they have given you so much wisdom about relationships and life that like we need right now within our environment and culture. Because it's so easy for people to not recognize the value of what both of you said. Like there's so many valuable things that you said, and I was trying to contain myself because I recognize that I don't want people to think that I'm low-key wild when they watch or listen to my podcast and blog. I actually want them to realize that I am a very competent person.
The tone in which you started speaking. Yes. I
have 2 degrees. I don't want to, scare some people away because I'm acting crazy. So let's get to the towards end. I kind of sent you all this, but this statement was made to me about 3 or 4 years ago by an executive vice president at the credit union I used to work for when I lived in Tulsa. And this woman did something for me that I'll never forget. She actually paid for a class that I needed to finish my degree. Like she invested into me in a huge way. And it was such a blessing to me because I didn't know where the money was going to come from. But this woman, and she would always say to me, she said, Lee, I made this investment in you. Now I need you to go and pay it forward. So as a couple, what are some of the things that you're doing in that regard of paying it forward? Like what contributions are you making to other people's lives, and what does that look like for you all?
Well, for us, it's, I don't know, we're going to jump in there. My bad. For us, it's really working toward speaking to, for my husband, men, and myself, some women, and encouraging them in their relationships. God starting to show us some things and what we're really supposed to be doing. So, getting ready to dive into some things that we can talk about later, but
Yeah,
in the future. But yeah, I think really giving back in our time. We've, like my husband said, we weren't always happy. We've had some major struggles in our marriage, and we had very influential people who were able to encourage us. And listen, we were almost divorced. So we're here. And so we shouted loud and proud every year on our anniversary. And we had very influential people, like I said, really encouraging us and talking to us and encouraging us to stay together, encouraging us to press through, and to really, for us, our faith is really important to us. So dig into God for that strength, and really worked hard with us. We were both hard-headed. And so really working hard with us. And so giving back to other couples, beginning to do that journey, and encouraging others that, listen, if we can make it, you can too.
Yeah. Nick?
I would say just continually be an example to our children. Because again, this is, I know we talked a lot about kids, but now into that adult stage, and now into the dating stage, right? And the relationship stages for them beyond friendships. And so continually being an example, and not like the textbook example, like, being the realist example of what marriage looks like. Our youngest always, y'all going out on a date again? Like, yes, we are.
Yep.
You just make sure when you get married that just dropping those seeds,
Yeah.
But I think, like you mentioned, like a part of your show is legacy. And I think the reality of it is, and kind of my own revelation of these last 2 years is, I'm not going to be here forever.
Right.
Like, I might not be here tomorrow.
Right.
I might not be here tomorrow.
Right.
And have I given my children every best example I could give them? Not perfect, but just best of marriage, of being a dad, of being a husband, especially for my sons and my daughters, so they know what to look for. Right. And so when you talk about kids coming back telling you certain things, it's like, it's a joy. Like, oh, that relationship didn't work because da 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 da. I'm like, okay, so we have taught you some discernment. Very good. Like, you're starting to see what it looks like. It's not just, the first, hey, yo, baby, hey, yo, like, no, you have a name, first of all. And so
list all over again.
Yeah. and I think that's for, paying it forward for me starts there. And so if I have any joy, like we're even going into a new season of here in a few months, we will be grandparents.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so now we have another season of something, to look forward to. And now not only navigating our children how to be an adult, navigating our child how to be a mother.
Yeah.
And so it's, again, how are we paying forward that legacy in our own children and pocketing those seeds? So,
Yeah. Oh, man. I don't want to end this interview. I have to, but it's, oh my gosh, it's been such a refreshing experience for me to listen to people that understand what it takes. Because I think when people listen to this or watch this, obviously I've said my desire, but there are a lot of people, and even me, we live in this mythos in our culture of what relationships are and what marriage looks like and all these different things. Some of us go into it ignorant of how much work, ignorant of what, we're too busy thinking about the aesthetic of how our marriage is going to look instead of what our marriage is. And we all fall guilty. Good. We can all fall into the trap. I'm saying it as a non-married person. So I recognize I'm fighting against, as a young person, not getting so caught up to, like, it does matter to a certain extent, obviously, yes, but not getting so caught up in the allure of what it looks like and building what it actually is. And I'll talk to you all about something off camera about that very thing. But because it's something that I've seen happen even in my own life. But I'm gonna get to this last question because I'm super excited for people to listen to this. I really do. I'm super excited for them to engage this because you all, it's an exciting moment for you all, and it's a testament to obviously the Lord's goodness and his grace, but also your willingness to do some work and your willingness to invest in yourselves and each other and in each other in ways that was necessary to get you to this point. So I'm super grateful that you say yes to me. So my last and final question. My last and final question, which is always my fun question. I'm actually very excited for these answers. And I always ask people this when they come on leading, is I always ask, what song will you use to describe yourself and why? And Nick, I want you to go first because I'm wondering about this one.
So I don't know the name of the song. It's an old song. I think it's called "Use Me Up." I don't know who sings it. I don't know who sings it.
I'm trying to figure out what the song is.
I know a verse.
I'm trying to go through my Rolodex.
I know a verse that goes, "You just keep on using me until you use me up."
Oh.
I think and I think just in my life, I don't want to. I've heard it said this way. I want to die empty.
Yeah.
I don't want to be at that last moment and have a regret or have a man, I should have did this, or man, I should have, or man, I wish I'd have just spent a little more, like every minute of every second.
Yep.
Like with the exception of resting.
Yep.
Like if I'm up, like I usually tell myself when I wake up, okay, I'm still here. God has a purpose. There's something I'm supposed to do today. Yep. Lord, let me do it. Yep. Whatever that is, whoever that is, I'm supposed to talk to about whatever. And so I think for my life, that would be it. Too many generations of my family die full and never do anything. And so I don't want that. So use me up.
Well, okay, sir.
That's all I got.
Angela.
Ask the offering buckets. So mine is had to get churchy real quick. Mine is Elton John, "I'm Still Standing." This song pops in my head at least a dozen times a day. It's just the Holy Spirit be like, all right, listen. So I get excited and I'll be walking through the house and I'm still standing.
Than I ever did.
Yeah. Feeling like a true survivor. Feeling like a little kid.
Yes.
I'm still standing. Yeah. That's my song.
Oh, it's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one. I love that song. I only know part of the chorus. But I think about that song often and I just think like, okay, well, how much the Lord is really just letting me know I'm still here. I'm still standing. Been through the ringer, been through a whole lot of trauma as a child, trauma as an adult, drama in marriage and as a parent and all the different facets of our areas of my life. And I'm still standing. So That's my song.
Angela and Nick. It has been an absolute joy to have you all on leading. I am grateful that I had enough sense to be like, have them on, ask them to come on and share. Like, it has done so much for my soul to have people share. So I'm super excited for people to hear this. Thank you all for coming on. And I'm so grateful. So
thank you for having us. Thanks for having us. This was a blast. It was great.
Oh, thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. If you want to get more information and connect with me, visit me at www.leeascott.com or follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. So thank you for watching. Much love, and let's get started.